Welcome back to the Man Cave, everybody. I'm Kimmy B.
And Lenny.
ManTFup podcast returns. Very excited about this, Len. We've taken a few weeks off. We needed a break from each other.
I think we did.
I think TikTok would agree with that. But before we go any further, please, folks, remember, like, subscribe, share, follow. Drop your comments as we go along. We love to get the engagement, especially on our TikTok, on our YouTube page, pretty much any and everywhere that we are at. If you can engage with us, we love to hear from you, even if you're dragging us to filth. Now, if you don't know, I'm a radio personality by day, and Len, being the incredible co-host that he is, listens to my show every once in a while. And sometimes when we discuss things on the air, Lenny will comment via text, and I 99.99999% of the time end up mentioning whatever it is that you say, because he usually agrees with my other co-host there. Now, one of the things we were talking about recently was everything going on with Elon Musk, Twitter. Obviously, he's in a similar space to what you're in, whether it's tech, the internet landscape, blah, blah, blah. And I guess one of the topics we were discussing was his interaction with one of his employees live on Twitter. He ended up firing somebody in a Twitter thread after the person contradicted some things that he was saying about the app and how it was running and the engineers, and this was one of the engineers. And, you know, the question I think on the air was basically, is it okay to disagree with your boss, right? Like, is it okay to call your boss out? Is it okay to...
I mean, well, here's the first question I have for you. Would you call your boss out on the air?
For sure. We do it. You've listened to my show. We talk about Relentless Rob often.
Really calling him out.
We talk about Relentless Rob often. Now, there's some things about radio in general I wouldn't call out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
like behind the scenes stuff. Like you make him seem like an idiot. Do you try and outwit Relentless Rob on the radio? No. I mean, you call him out for bullshit, but
outwit him. I mean, I'm not engaging with him, so you know what I mean. It's not like if he was in the studio. I don't know. I think that I kind of have that relationship. I don't know. I guess I've just always been lucky enough to work in situations where I feel like, you know, collaboration and input was something that was supported, was something that was encouraged. Whether it was ever taken seriously, I don't know. But that could also be because I grew up in a family business atmosphere where the employees were very much regarded as a part of the bigger picture, right? Like, it was one of those things I think my uncle understood very well, that the more invested people feel they are, the more valued people feel they are, the more of a voice people have. A lot of times, the more willing they are to go above and beyond.
Yeah, but you know, I have a fairly open work environment, and people comment back and forth all the time, and we have a lot of banter, and we have a lot of stuff. But there is times that employees in my past have crossed a line, you know, and, you know, whether it be their issue or whatever issue, but they've crossed a line and they're no longer with us.
Well, it was funny because in the comments, because obviously it immediately went viral, Elon legit fired this guy in the Twitter thread because somebody else had interjected themselves into the conversation between Elon and his employee. It was a legitimate Twitter employee. And then, of course, everybody else was weighing in. And somebody was like, with an attitude like that, Elon, I'm not sure you really need him on your team. And he was like, oh, don't worry, he's fired. And everybody was like, word, did Elon Musk really just fire this guy? And I think even the guy felt it was kind of up in the air, and he did an interview the next day because, again, it went viral. And literally, I think it was like 1:30 Pacific time, all of his he just got locked out of all of his Twitter stuff. And he was like, well, I guess he meant it. You know what I mean? And obviously, Elon has come under fire, and he's also been praised as of late for how he's handled the Twitter situation. You know, but in that thread that was just basically based on the back and forth between Elon and this employee, you know, there are a lot of people saying the boss is always right. You know, rule number 1, the boss is always right. And even when the boss is wrong, you know, rule number 2, see rule number 1. And it felt like, I'm sorry, but it felt like a little bit of a dated mentality as we move forward. Like, and you have these massive tech companies, some of the wealthiest, you know, business ventures in the world moving into this, you know, open collaborative space where, you know, they're not seen as necessarily employees, but partners in the process. I think that the waters are getting a little muddied, and that whole the boss is always yes sir, no sir, like that feels a little antiquated to me.
That's fine, but the bottom line is that person holds you and your livelihood in their hands. So why do you want to mess with that? Why do you want to do that? It's the boss is always right. Period. It's that simple.
But having that mentality as a boss, like you've just allowed your ego to interfere with the operations of your business, and you may have lost a great employee. He wasn't belittling him. He simply said that's not correct information. And if you're trying to drag your employees, you're trying to make your employees look subpar, you're only hurting your brand. Like, so him calling out his
He's
team
trying to build up Twitter
on Twitter. Twitter is built, homie. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It was literally the most open social platform that we have at this moment. And I understand what he thinks he's trying to do, but it's become a shit show. Like, I don't know if you've seen the increase in hate speech and just derogatory comments, and just, it is the wild, wild west of social media right now. And for people that go there to engage in actual, debate and conversation, which I know isn't everybody, but it is a lot of people, right? Like, it's unfortunate, and it's really even more toxic than it was before when, we thought things were really bad. It's wild, and it's hard to respect a platform that just allows blatant disregard for certain things, like just humanity, just being good people. Like, I get you speak your mind in free speech, and I'm here for it, and let's go back and forth. But some of the shit that's being, propagated is just wild. And it's I don't want to be on a platform like that. Like, that's not what I go to there for.
But that's your right. You can just not go on Twitter anymore.
I get that, but like there were other places that were created. So again, though, Len, you're talking about your whole, it's the few that are, you know what I mean? And once again, the few
that's their voice,
are alienating, there are literally other, you have Donald Trump's platform, social, or truth, or whatever the hell it's called.
These things will work themselves out. Okay. He took over, he opened the floodgates, the waters rush in. It's going to have to level out. There's something.
What was wrong with it, though? Like, I guess, like, to my point, you had a team.
What was wrong with it? I don't know. Why did they take certain people off that weren't necessarily spewing hate speech? Why, you
incite violence. I mean, you saw that Kanye got his account suspended again.
Yes. But it's like, at what level do you regulate people to? I got canceled by Zuckerberg's organization very early on for asking a question if you would give your dog CBD.
That's so weird.
So at what level do you become, all right, that's too much? It's like
But you can see how his like, attitude in life has carried over to how he runs, or vice versa, how he runs his business, because he handled his employees the same way. And these are the people that he can't run Twitter. That is not what this man does. You know what I mean? And it's funny to me because I don't know where people got this idea that he's this mastermind or this tech genius, or he's the guy that's writing this code. That's not what he does, guys. It's not what he does.
What does he do?
He runs the business. He's the face. He's the figurehead. He's what I guess a great CEO
really, because I've heard him say many times that he's more comfortable in the engineering part of it, in designing stuff at his what's the name of his company that does the
Are you talking about his rocket ship company?
No, that's SpaceX. He has SpaceX. He has Tesla, and he has the other company that made the flamethrower.
But he didn't create the technology for Tesla. He didn't create the technology for Twitter. Everything you know him for, he did not create that technology. So better off with engineering.
You have to take that technology and put it somewhere and make it work. And if you...
He had money behind him.
Yep.
He had money.
But
you don't think the guy
need people.
But you don't think the guy with Napster could have made, or whatever, or even Bill Gates, we all know Bill Gates is very honest about how he got Microsoft, and he kind of jacked it from his college roommate, correct? Wasn't that the whole story behind Microsoft? It was, but again, and an idea is just an idea without implementation.
Yeah, Facebook, same thing.
But he had money. What I'm saying is at least give the credit where the credit is due. We all know Bill Gates isn't responsible for creating Microsoft. He's not the Steve Jobs of Microsoft. Like,
yes, but he is responsible for making Microsoft.
That's not what I'm talking
is.
about, though.
I give Bill Gates
comes from his team.
Tesla designed this technology in the early 1900s.
But this is my point to you, though, Len, is that I give credit where credit is due. I'll give credit to Bill Gates for his foresight, for being, an innovator, for understanding what he was looking at and the power of what it could be. That's a different skill set. Elon Musk, very much in that same lane. But is he the guy that's going to make Twitter better, like fundamentally, like with code? No, that's not what he does. And he's firing the team that does that. And he's belittling them and berating them and all of these things. And that is what led to this particular incident on Twitter. Like, he's treated his team with complete disregard.
I think it goes more to the work ethic of the team at
Twitter. How dare you? Do you even know what their work ethic is?
I mean, this is just what I've heard. I'm just.
What have you heard? Have you had a conversation with Elon Musk? What you know about this?
There's rumors going around in all directions.
That they were lazy? No, they didn't necessarily want to come back to the office, but we had this conversation, and I said, as soon as he started demanding people come back into the office, it made me laugh, because Twitter was the first, at least tech company, to go full remote when pandemic first started, and then within, I want to say, a week or so, made an announcement that said their employees would never have to come back. At that moment in time, we saw the influx of people moving to Miami, right? We saw the influx. People went everywhere. They scattered to the ends of the earth, right? Like, especially people that worked in tech that no longer had to pay $18,000 a month to live in New York City or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. They might have gone to Asheville. They might have gone to Montana. They might have gone where they could be outside and play with their damn dogs and whatever. It has nothing to do with how much they work. They might be putting in 22-hour days. That was the whole deal with tech. Tech threw the 9-to-5 schedule out the window. And we know this. The Google campuses are open 24 hours a day because they understand not everybody is at their best at the same time. Like, some people are night owls, right? Burn the midnight oil, work best between midnight and 8 a.m. Other people might work great for 5-hour periods of time. Wthey've got sleeping pods. They've got massage therapists that show up. I mean, that was the innovate. Not only is tech just in itself innovative, but they were kind of reinventing the way the American workforce looked at work. Right? So to sit here and question these guys' work ethic when this app, literally every other app crashes, Zuckerberg, where do we go when Instagram's down? Where do we go when Facebook's down? Immediately to Twitter to find out what's going on, right? When you're refreshing and refreshing and refreshing and your Instagram is stuck, you immediately go to Twitter. Twitter doesn't really go down.
Do you think
it doesn't make money? That's a different situation.
Do you think he's going to have any issues running Twitter? Do you think there's not 30 people waiting to fill that guy's job?
I don't know. And that's where who you are as a boss and your reputation. Like, first of all, these people, I will say this, after Zuckerberg, tech is going through some stuff, right? Like many industries, massive layoffs. So do I think that there's an incredibly gifted workforce that would like a paycheck? For sure. But do I think that they are also in a space where these are people who are like, I want to work somewhere where I believe in what I'm doing, where I feel that I'm respected. They have a very special skill set, a lot of these individuals. And it's a skill set that in that field, people will pay very well to attain, right? So I don't think he values them like that. I don't think he's the guy that's going to throw money at them. Like, he just seems like a dick. And for these guys, if I have the option to go to multiple different companies, if somebody else decides they want to spring up with, and somebody will, you know that, somebody will compete with Twitter at this point just because it's kind of in disarray. And there's already other platforms that have sprung up that are built that people could go help make better. So do I think that they're just lining up? Not in 2022. Maybe a few years ago. After the way he handled this, though, no. I don't think that. I think that there's people that will fill the job for sure.
I don't know. He's got a pretty big workforce that work for his other companies that are pretty happy people.
Are they? You know a lot of people that work for Tesla?
No, I mean, I've just listened to things. I know a kid who's going to college right now that's toured Tesla, and that's his dream job is working at, not Tesla, it's SpaceX. You know, and I mean, if you look at what he looks for in an employee, it's more work ethic than necessarily, you know, a college degree. He looks for people.
I'm going to be honest with you.
He invests in people.
He invests in people. So you have this talented workforce that you literally just put between a rock and a hard place and just got rid of them. He's also complaining that Twitter's losing money. You know, he's got to turn it around and make it profitable because obviously there's shareholders to answer to. He spent $44 billion. He overpaid for it. He'll admit that. You know, I think he sees there's got to be some upside to it, whatever. I don't know about that. I think he likes yes men. I think he likes people that praise him. And I think he knows in that space, honestly, Len, a lot of the people, you know, a big portion were moderators, people who go in and go over the content that's being posted. I think he wanted to rebuild with some people that were more ideologically in line with him, possibly, that wouldn't push back when he opened the floodgates, that wouldn't, you know,
how about just people who are more in the middle?
What do you mean more in the middle?
How
do you know where the employees are? Like,
well, I mean, listen, I can only go by the millennials I know.
No.
You know,
but do you understand why people wouldn't necessarily want the president on Twitter after what happened on January 6th, when that was his platform to rally, you know, insurgents? Like, that's not being an extremist. That's like, I'm not out here like trying to become the next. I'm not a socialist. I'm not a communist. I'm not any of these things. I don't want people like that on there because we've seen that abuse of power. We've seen what that looks like. I'm not mad when you pull Kanye's craye, as I like to call him now, off. You know what I mean? I'm not mad when you take away his toy. You know, because there's power in words, and we've seen that firsthand, and that power is growing. With much power comes great responsibility, and I don't think Elon Musk, you know, creating cars, one thing. This is something very different. You're shaping culture. You're shaping, you know what I mean? Like, you're shaping the future of our democracy. Like, this is a platform that was under siege during elections, right? Like, you have shows.
But I mean, are you really happy where social media is shaping our country right now in general? I mean,
no, in a lot of ways, absolutely not.
You know, it doesn't matter whether it's hate speech or this or that or the other. It's destroying our kids. It's destroying the next generation. Mm-hmm. So social media in general.
But we've gone through this though, because when you talk about our kids, part of that then goes back to parents. We've had this conversation ad nauseum. And when you have people, again, doing these documentaries that you love to watch, that I love to watch, the people that created these platforms that will tell you point blank, my child is not allowed to use it because they know the negative consequences it can have, that should be a red flag. That should be, you know, a warning. And there's ways, I think, to manage that. But at the end of the day, we're a capitalist society, and we know that via social media, we're selling products, right? Whether it's to the 12-year-old or to the 12-year-old's parent or to the 7-year-old. We have parents out here now that are literally turning their children into social media stars to reap financial reward. No different than child stars back in the day, trying to get your kid on the Mickey Mouse Club, or, you know, trying to get your
Pageants.
kid. Yeah. I mean, this is just a new iteration of the same old, but it's got a much broader reach, and I think there's much more opportunity to find even a little bit of success in it. Do you know what I mean?
It's the social interaction. Forget about the influencing and the this and the that. It's the social interaction that it's taking away from.
You're talking about in person.
Yeah, it's taking away kids, young adults. It's, you know, we're talking about 30-year-olds now. It's taking away their ability to have a conversation with a person in person.
Mm-hmm. But again, I think that also goes back to parenting, because and then that goes back to economics and whether or not parents are able to be home and engaging their kids in conversation.
So if you go back to Nick, who's, you know, white boy's 27? If you go back to him, And he was first generation that actually had a smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
So,
like, grew up with it.
Yeah, grew up with it. So for him, it's normal. So you're changing the structure of parents. And now, as his parents, they weren't aware of how detrimental this was going to become in 10 or 15 years, or how much influence it would have. It was just a social platform.
I get that, and you can say that, but it's like, I work with people that are in that age range, and I understand that I'm in communication, so God, that'd be really shameful if people in communications couldn't have conversations, right? But again, I really do think that it started way before a smartphone. And I think I think a big part of the responsibility lands, I mean, on us as a community, on us as a nation, and culturally, you know, where we've gotten financially, parents having to work 2 jobs, both parents being out of the house. So who's watching your kids, who's raising your kids, you know, or even when you come home and you're just burnt or exhausted, or you're still working because now there's no more line, there's no more punch in, punch out, you know, you're doing emails at home. And what do? You hand them a phone, you put on the DVD player, I think computers started to change the game.
Yeah.
When a kid could be in their room playing
Xboxes,
Oregon Trail, and you had Nintendo, you had video games for a long time, but then it just progressively got to be more and more. Then the internet came along, right? And now you have AOL chat, and you have the MySpaces, you have all of these things.
So do you think?
And I think parents took it as a reprieve. They were like, "Ooh, I know where my kid is. They're home. They're in their room. They're not in these streets." Not understanding the impact that would have later on down the line.
Do you think that this could be causing, through the socioeconomics of our country, a rift between kids who still have to go play outside and kids who no longer?
Do those even exist?
Of course they do.
Where?
Kids who can't afford to have a friggin' iPhone.
You'd be amazed. I would love for you to show me one. Like, and I'm saying that, you know, ironically, because even with, can I tell you something? It's a blessing to be a kid that gets to go outside and play. Like, I was talking about this with your wife just recently, just talking about raising kids now versus the childhood that I had, and being able to leave my house on my bike for the entire day, and my mother not worrying about where I was or what happened to me. Now, mind you, this is the same mom. We lived, you know, in South Florida when Adam Walsh was kidnapped. And that was kind of like the first, like, that was...
You lived here that long?
Mm-hmm. Well, I was born here, and then I moved back up north. Oh, okay. My family's all from the Northeast. But yeah, we were down here. So this is the same woman who was aware that children could be snatched. You know, now we have Amber Alerts and things like that. But where I lived, you know what I mean? Like, I'd ride my bike to a friend's house. If it got to be dark, the friend's parents would walk us to the top of the street. I'd ride my bike home. My mom would meet me at the top of my street. Then we'd walk home together. Like, that's a blessing. I understand what you're saying. Like, I almost think that kid is probably more privileged than the kid that's got the iPhone and the iPad and every other toy, because they're actually getting to be kids. I also feel like it's still few and far between, because even the disenfranchised, even the people who have less, are being taught to prioritize these things, right? Like, the goal is to get iPads into the classrooms, right? Is to make kids tech aware, because we know it's the future.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if it was used for educational purposes, it would be phenomenal, because our kids should be so advanced now. They should be advancing like our computers are advancing.
I know. But you know what, though? Because, again, another conversation we've had ad nauseum is the fact that this thing is basically the key to the world, right? At your fingertips, anything you want to know. But don't you think that there's a step in critical thinking that comes with going to the library, pulling out the cards, knowing the Dewey Decimal System, going and finding the book,
Absolutely.
Reading through it?
You need a baseline.
Do you understand what I'm like? So this is the problem. Because information is so accessible, we type in very specific things. Sometimes my phone knows before I even think about what I want to ask it, which is very frightening.
Yeah, we looked up how many square miles Italy and Florida was today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But did your phone know you were going to ask that before you even started?
No. It answered me in Italian, though. No.
Oh, I would have loved that. What setting is that? But no, what I'm saying is, like, you ask these very specific questions and then you delve no further. You get a very specific answer, right? It's kind of like not showing the work for your math problem.
Yeah, well, that goes to the problem of, people getting misinformation because you don't know what you're getting when you ask a question like, do aliens really exist? You're going to get opinions of whoever pops up first on Google, or, is the sky orange?
Yeah.
It's that's the problem with not going any further is because you're taking this as.
But it's also like, the bigger story behind it. Like I can remember reading, like you remember like Encyclopedia Britannica, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was this other book that I had that I loved, and it would talk of like you could look up why is magma this color, or like why is a flame blue, or like just weird random shit. But like as you're scrolling through to find why is a flame blue, because there's 800 pages in this book,
you're learning other
you're
things.
finding something else, right? And that's the beauty of, that's what I always talk about reading, whether it's on a Kindle or whatever. Reading is just such an invaluable gift. And if you can encourage your kids to do that, I don't care what it is that they're reading. It can be different cultural experiences. It can be different historical experiences. It can be, just getting the creative juices flowing, whatever the case may be. But it's like that to me is where I feel like phones, technology are limiting people because there's a level of critical thinking and there's a level of self-reliance that we've just eliminated. Right? Like the will to go find something, the will to really ask a question and seek out an answer. Like before you had to really do that. Like I remember writing papers in college, like my God, and we had computers. I'm not that old, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it was like 18 different medical journals and you're printing out papers and it's 4:00 in the morning. And
my contractor's exam for GC in Florida, it was 13 books.
Jesus.
They were, if you set them on the floor, they were about 4 feet tall.
Oh my God.
And the test started at like 7:30 in the morning and it went till 5 in the afternoon, 2 days in a row. You had a half hour for lunch. And, luckily it was an open book test, but you still had to find that answer,
Okay, but you could use the books.
You could use the books, but you had 13 of them and they were 4 foot tall.
Yeah.
So it didn't say in this book on page 20.
You had to be familiar with the material. You had to pay attention.
To know.
You had
to know, which is not, this is basically a cheat sheet.
Yeah, it's Cliff Notes.
If you if you were able to use that, it's going to give you answers that that are already known. It's funny because we were playing around. We're playing around with this AI writer, which is a what's this new program. Mm-hmm. You tell it what you want it to write, and it will write you
like copy and stuff like that. Is that what you're talking about? Like, so if you're like, this is what I want our campaign to sound like.
Yes, it will write, and
so it's basically having an ad agency in your computer.
It is as good,
wow,
if not better than most copywriters.
Wow, that's wild.
I mean, you can just read through it, change a few words here and there.
Yep.
And it's
but it basically does.
And then you take what it wrote, and then you put it into the plagiarism site to make sure it's not plagiarized. And we tested it on a couple things. We asked it the same question about 6 times.
Yeah. And
it gave us different pages.
But that was somebody's job, though.
Yeah.
Like, and that was
somebody.
Somebody what?
Somebody taught it to think.
No, but what I'm saying is though, like,
that the copywriter, but that's where technology is going. It's going, if you ask any one of the technology
so weird,
gurus,
but you're so weird. You are an enigma to me because you love so much about the old ways and you love so much about old school, but then when it comes to like jobs. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's somebody's job. That was human, like that was a person that was creative.
We're not firing our copywriter. We're just having him read the copy. I'll tell you what it does. It takes your copywriter and it gives them triple the output. Mm-hmm. Triple. So now this copywriter who was writing, let's just say 10 pages a day.
Yeah.
On Fiverr.
You don't think that there's going to be crossover and similarities? Like if there's another vitamin supplement company out there that's using the same.
We thought about that. We thought about that, and that's why we went and we repeated the same things to see if we get different answers. And we got different answers. And it appears like it searches the web immediately for stuff that goes along with that, and it takes from wherever you're searching. Like we searched competitors and wrote stuff about competitors just to see what it would say. And I mean, it's pretty neat stuff, but you can now take that. So your copywriter sits down. This is what I have to write some copy on today. He punches this in. Boom. It spits out all this stuff. Now he can just take this, reread it, test it a little bit, check it a little bit, and move on. His productivity is going to go up 2 or 3 times.
His productivity for a company like yours, where you still value that, but for a smaller company that's trying to eliminate a marketing agency, a copywriter, or whatever,
Yeah, but that's where it's going. It's giving startups.
But okay, so let me ask you this question. I'm sorry, I know I cut him off because that's where it's going.
That's just what she does.
That is a pot calling the kettle fucking black. I don't know what is.
Pot to kettle.
No, you have a copywriter who grew up writing copy. What happens to that skill set in 20 years when now people are growing up with copywriting with this AI, with this technology? That job becomes obsolete because we're no longer focused on that. It's going to pivot a little bit. You understand what I'm saying?
Somewhat. And it's, the thing about growing up today and being a person today in today's ever evolving.
Somebody keep track of how many times Lenny says today in this episode.
On today's episode. The thing about it is people are going to have to be more flexible, and they're going to have to pivot. They're going to have to, when they look at their career choices, they're going to have to go, is this career going to be here in 10 years? Is this career going to be here in 20 years? They're going to have to look at that, and they're going to have to be able to pivot.
So won't bosses also have to look at that and also have to be able to pivot?
Of course.
Okay, so that goes back to how we started this entire conversation, which was about Elon Musk and about his management style or whatever the case may be.
I think Elon Musk, and I said this to you in my comment on the radio, I think he's got a plan. I think he's executing it. I don't by any means think that he is not following right along with what he planned to do. I think he might have got bombarded and a little over his head on letting everybody back in or opening up the floodgates. But I think his plan with his employees and with where he wants to take Twitter is going.
You do know that there were things that he wanted that were highly illegal, and his team around him was like, you can't do that. And he, because he's Elon Musk, really thought he could, and then had to pump the brakes. He wanted to come in and fire 3,000 people a week before they got their bonus checks and whatever. And it was that's literally illegal. You can't.
You know what? You know what makes that legal?
No, it's not though, because he couldn't do it.
But you know what made that legal?
It's not legal, Len.
There's one instance where it's legal.
Okay, but not in this instance.
No, but listen, this is just a story, a little bit of a tangent.
I get it, but I don't want people to think it was not a good move on his part. So once again, you're just feeding into this whole oh my god.
If you expect the boss of a CEO of several multi-$100 million companies to know all the ins and out and laws that the HR department people know, they just don't know it.
That was a pretty.
They don't know it.
A pretty big obvious. And people were like, "You can't do."
Why is it so obvious? Why is it so obvious to someone who's here? You can't.
You don't think as soon as he sat down and said, "This is what I want to do," and they said, "You can't do it," and he kept trying to do it. He thought he could do it because
he's a problem solver.
Oh my God, you're a fan, aren't you? Are you fangirling over Elon Musk? Really?
No, it's.
And also,
no, I'm looking at it at a different way. Yes, there's plenty of stuff that's not legal to do. No, look, there's plenty of stuff that's not legal to do. There's plenty of stuff that's very legal to do, and there's plenty of stuff that's gray area.
Facts.
And
that's corporate America.
And yes, and corporate America lives in the gray area. So if you can tell me that Elon Musk is not in the top echelon of corporate America. He pays as little or no taxes as everybody else at that level.
Proud of.
So, but that's a loophole. So when someone says to me, "You can't do that," I question it. Why? Why can't I do that? So if someone says to Elon Musk, "You can't do that," he's going to go, "Why? Tell me why. Tell me why it can't be done like this or like this or like this. Tell me why." That's his job, is to question those things.
But the point is, when somebody tells you why, he's also a petulant child. In the fact that he thinks he can do it because he's him. Like he's.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying the guy doesn't have an ego.
1,000. That's what this entire conversation is about. So is the boss always right when the boss is literally letting his ego run the room? Like, that's the other problem. He took it to the streets. He literally took it to the streets.
We're getting a filtered down side of this stuff.
We didn't get a filtered down side of it. We saw it happen in real time. His words, their words. This is how it went. Like,
do you know if he had any conversations with that guy before?
No, he did. I mean, that all came after. Like, no, there were no conversations there. The man just said, "Hey, I've been working on this team for literally 7 years. Like, we have made strides. Like, so that's false information." And it wasn't even and that's the other part about it, is that having, like, I don't understand from a management perspective, right? Having somebody say, "Hey, that's just not right." That's not rude. That's a fact. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, and that's the problem. We talk so much about people being sensitive and oh my God, everybody wants to get their panties in a bunch and snowflake this and that. And it's like some of the biggest egos, the most beat their chest machismo mofos are the first ones to get their panties in a wad, 45. You know what I mean? Elon, when somebody points out, "You're wrong." That is not, to me, the sign of a good manager, of a good boss, of a visionary. Like, that's somebody who, to me, saw something and said, now you can have a great feel for something. It doesn't make you a good manager of talent or of people. And what worries me about Elon is it feels like he's getting into that space where he wants people, like, and I would think that you would have a problem with this because you're so big on the middle, and even on your team, you have people across the spectrum. Obviously, you have me, you have Nestor, you have, I mean, literally, you know, and we have good debates and conversations, and not everybody agrees, whether it's politics, whether it's culturally, whether it's about business, whether it's about a marketing campaign, whatever the case may be. I feel like that's something that you believe in because it's the best way to get a really whole product.
A good boss
right?
never wants to be the smartest person in the room.
Facts, but also it's not about having all the same people in the room. Otherwise, you're only getting one voice. Correct. Always, correct. Right?
Well, you could see that from Carrot Top, that, you know, he went through 50,000 people in his administration because they said no to him once.
But to go back to what I said a little while ago, this particular move with Twitter and why he wanted Twitter feels more ideological, and that he wants people more ideologically aligned with him.
I don't believe,
and I don't think that has to do with making a good product.
I don't believe that Elon Musk does not take no for an answer or constructive criticism in any of his other companies badly. I just don't believe it. I don't believe, because he doesn't come across as that person in anything else. He might be egotistical, he might be, but I think he's got a plan.
To make it more like truth. Like, I mean, I don't. Here's my question, and now to take it back to your kids, and I know that we're getting close on time. You talk about social media and how you're not happy that social media is kind of, you know, dictating culture, right? And it is a scary space to be in. But how can you be worried about that? For many reasons, right? You, I think, worry about it more in your kids not being able to sit down at a table in a meeting room and shake somebody's hand and sell themselves. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you why.
In the sense of why I deserve this job.
I'll tell you why I'm not that worried about it with my kids. It does worry me because it does influence them in certain things.
I'm sorry, can I interject quickly? If there's such a thing as a warm and cuddly boss, Musk has long been the opposite to his employees, who now number more than 100,000. That's a lot of people. Wow. He burns through executives with the heat of a battery fire. He takes criticism personally, even when it's a matter of worker or customer safety. I mean, we could just keep going through this list here.
Where's it coming from?
Is he a good manager? People that have worked for him, Len.
Yeah, but okay, people that have...
No, can I tell you something?
Have you ever heard of a disgruntled employee?
And sometimes the disgruntled...
I have some of them.
Yeah, you can be an asshole, said with love.
Yeah, no shit.
But you're a visionary. I will always... Here's the thing, though, and I think you have to be able to separate, and that goes back to people being sensitive and other things and maybe needing to walk into situations, understanding what are the opportunities I'm going to take from this, and once I've gotten all of that, peace out, right? It's not all kumbaya and, utopia, one of your words, right? You're going to run into things. I like a place where we can go head to head. Like, Len, we do it. We're actually very good this episode. But you and I can, literally...
I'll try and throw a match.
...want to wring each other's necks and come back the next week. Like, people are like, yo, they've got to be friends because there's no way you can do this. Do you understand? But that, and I understand that's
the point.
The nature
that was
of
the
what
whole
we do.
point of this podcast to begin with, is that there's middle ground. And the fact that we've butted heads so many times on so many different topics, and we're still sitting on the couch, is proof of concept.
Yeah. But even from a business perspective, though, you and I have had differing opinions on the podcast, and we can have words, and you're always respectful, and even if I say some shit, I love what you've put together here, and I respect you as this guy, right? And so with that being said, you can be disgruntled, you can be frustrated with the situation, and you can speak the truth. It doesn't mean that you're lying on somebody because you didn't have a good experience. What I think Elon does do, to your point, I think if you have that kid who wants to work at SpaceX and was blown away, he's got some incredible talent that works for him. Right? Some of the best minds in these respective fields. And to anybody coming up in it that's passionate about something, that's who you want to work with. It doesn't matter if the boss is a total asshole, right? Sometimes you take the good with the bad. And it's if I get to work with the best scientist on the planet, the guy who's going to cure cancer, guess what? It doesn't matter if the CEO is a dick, right? Because I'm learning from the best of the best of the best. And when it gets to the point where I can no longer take it, I'm going to bounce. And maybe that's where the guy on Twitter was at, right? Maybe he felt he worked for this incredible company and it was just, I'm going to do it as long as I can. And if it blows up, I'm out. And maybe that's where he got to. So I think Elon can identify talent, but as a manager or a boss, I don't think he's creating a really healthy, positive,
I'm going to try and get him
workforce.
on the show.
Please do. I mean, hey, you got Grant Cardone, so
I'm going to try and get him on the show.
I will never ever doubt you in my life.
You hear me, Elon? Man the fuck up.
I love that. Go back to your kids, though. Sorry, I just wanted to drag Elon as a boss.
We were talking about my kids?
We were talking about social media. Oh. And you said you're not really...
old, my memories.
You're not really worried about your kids.
No, and I'll tell you why. Well, I am worried about the influence that social media has on them on a day-to-day basis as far as fashion and, body and this and that and blah, blah, blah.
Mental health,
Yeah, that part of it. But I also feel that if you instow in your kids respect, reality, that, all that shit ain't real, if they are smart enough to understand that, then I think you have a fighting chance. You don't have a fighting chance on keeping them off of social media because it's just like anything else. If you restrict your children from things, you run the risk of an 18-year-old going off the chain because they've never been exposed to any of this stuff, which is a big danger. It's the same, you don't ever let your 18-year-old see alcohol. That happens a lot in in the people who run Amish. The Amish, in Utah.
Yeah. I'm sure it happens even with Orthodox Jews.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Anywhere you have a really strict religious
they have to give those kids freedom at a certain age. And a lot of the kids don't come back or they go off.
Oh yeah, that's actually an Amish rite passage.
Yes. So I'm a firm believer in limiting their exposure to things that are new and not going away and, that are going to be an influence throughout their entire life. alcohol,
Yeah.
smoking, this, that. They see it.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about it. It's like Nick was in here today.
We have a whole bar in the corner.
Nick was in here today. He's like, Dad, why you got so much alcohol in here?
Yeah, because
he's like, you do shots in here?
Lenny really doesn't drink, by
No.
the way, just for the record.
No, but
I do.
It's
Working
there.
with Lenny.
Yeah, and Laz.
I'm a sadist, let me just tell you. But no, I guess my question for why I asked that question was because to take it back to Twitter and that opening of the floodgates. That kind of negativity for a lot of these kids who are not necessarily, because it's a point that you've made, on occasion on the show, is that your kids have grown up in a very multicultural situation, friends of all walks of life, all different financial backgrounds, you know what I mean? So for them, they don't identify with a lot of this negative, hateful language that's being allowed, regardless of freedom of speech, right? So when we talk about their mental health, when we talk about anxiety and depression being at an all-time high, when we talk about a generation of kids, that's medicated, that is antisocial, that doesn't have the ability to properly communicate in a lot of ways, and then was just doubled down on with pandemic, right? And being locked away from their friends. And we're seeing now that literally changed. Did you see that study?
No.
It changed certain parts of their brain development.
Of course.
And it's literally showing...
Depending on the age of the child,
this was teens, and it was showing signs of what they would see if a child had been through trauma, PTSD, abuse, neglect. So I'm sure we'll get more information on this as we, get farther removed from that time. But I just feel like, why add to that, right? Like, why if we can do better as a culture, if we can do better as a global community, why backslide to this place that is just so detrimental and hurtful and hateful?
Like I said, this is going to blow up, and then it's going to find its happy place.
Like, do you want to see pictures of Hitler on Twitter? Like when you're scrolling your feed, like in the sense of,
but you know what? I want my kids to
Elon.
know who Hitler was.
Facts.
Facts.
But do they need to be bombarded when the tweet of Hitler goes viral the day Elon Musk's takes over Twitter, and it's literally everybody saying, oh, today he would have just come on here and tweeted N-word, 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 and they're getting away with tweeting it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, is that really what our 12 and our 13 and our 18 and our 19-year-olds need to be seeing in 2022? I'm here for free speech, and I'm not necessarily saying that we should be censoring people, but we have community, because it's about respect, right? Because that's the whole thing, is getting people to come to this place collectively where you can disagree, where you can debate, where you can have conversations, where you can post silly memes, where you can get away with posting a lot of borderline porn, and actually not even borderline. It's a lot of porn on Twitter, for the record. A lot. It's wild.
I just started my Twitter. I don't know who.
And
who did I tweet? I tweeted somebody. I think I tweeted Alon, and who else? Somebody else.
Of course you did.
Somebody.
I just can't understand why.
I just tweet him, come on the Man.
Why we need to be like
Tate.
Why? Oh God. Why?
Why not? Why not?
Why?
Why not? Why not?
What do you want to have a conversation? Not with Elon, I understand. With that other one.
With Tate?
Stop saying his name. It's going to trigger something, I guarantee you, in these comments.
No, it's not.
No.
Who gives a shit?
Ugh. Why do you want to have a conversation with him?
Because I...
Do you admire him? Do you...
No. Well, first of all, he's smart. Okay? Listen, this guy has managed to keep himself relevant through everyone. Being
a hateful, misogynistic, narcissistic, egotistical, woman-beating,
but
kidnapping,
he's got
fraudulent, lie-telling.
But he's smart in the fact, listen, you could...
That you're tweeting him.
No, he's smart in the fact that he's kept himself relevant through being canceled by everybody. Instagram, Facebook, he's a genius.
Please don't throw that word around so lightly. You got to stop.
He's a genius in keeping himself in the social spotlight.
Okay, Genius. Can we please
in the
I got
social
a
spotlight.
Genius definition, because I can't believe
And
you would even let me that word at that moment. Genius.
I'm not opposed to men being men. It's just it's that
That's
simple.
not a
It's
man. That's literally
I don't mean
an ape.
I
like
don't
that is
necessarily
literally
mean,
a Neanderthal.
I'm not talking about him. Okay, I'm
That
talking
is-
about in general that manliness has come under
He
fire.
is not manly at all. A man that puts
I'm
his hands
not-
on a
am
woman.
I talking about
a
him?
man that no.
Am I
But
talking
anything
about-
that
I'm
he
talking
even
about-
talks about, he
No,
lost
that's
all.
That's not fair. That's not fair. Because even
exceptional intellectual or creative power or other natural ability.
yeah.
Exceptionally what is exceptional
Or creative power. He managed
about
to keep
that
himself,
man?
He managed to keep
No,
himself
we did that.
relevant.
He didn't do that. We did that.
No,
By having
but-
this conversation. In fact, you know what? I'm not talking about it anymore because now I'm just feeding into this. Absolutely not. Nope.
Told you.
Not doing it. We did that. We did that for him.
Yes.
He's a raving
But
lunatic.
if he's not on the platform,
So is Trump a genius?
if he's not on the Trump got canceled and couldn't get back on the platform. He got canceled on social media and could not get back on.
Because he
Tate got
incited
canceled and was on the
an
next fucking day.
insurrection.
That's fucking genius.
You're talking about, no, because we posted him. People have been posting Trump. He wasn't back on. We were reposting his content. We've been reposting Trump's content this entire
Yeah,
time.
but Trump had no voice. This guy is still out there talking directly to people. Trump had no voice for a long time on social media. You couldn't get Trump's. They weren't direct comments. He wasn't out there talking on social media.
Because he was in his feelings because he lost the election. He
Whatever.
was hiding in his bunker with classified
He was
documents.
also not on any social media platforms.
He was on his own.
Yeah.
He incited an insurrection.
Yes,
this
I
man
understand
this man is just a misogynist. Like, that's even better. That's how tired of him the world was that we literally got him kicked off of everything. People were literally writing into these platforms talking about the negative impact he was having on their young sons. Like, as much as you want your son to be a man, there were people that were like, listen, I have to draw the line somewhere, and this is it. Like,
Yes.
this is a man who has no respect
Yes, Tate is
for
over the top.
women, who has no respect for, cultural evolution, has no respect for respect. I mean, it's just, he's a disgrace. Like, even putting the word man with him, he's disgraceful. Disgraceful as a man.
Yeah, I'd like to have him on the podcast. You can rip him up in person.
You know what, though? He's an over-talker. That's the other thing that bothers me.
Yes.
He just yells louder than you, and most people just back the fuck down. Bring it on, Tate. I would love to see him. Tell him not to watch this shit, because we get loud. We get loud. In fact,
I have
Hollywood police might be
I
out
have
here.
no
Whatever.
mercy for anyone who lays their hand on a woman.
Mm-hmm.
That's but by the same token, okay? By the same token,
And he's a fraud on top of
by the same token, okay? If men are Neanderthals and have this barbaric thought about whatever, and women want equality, why don't they fight back? Just saying. There's standards.
Are you
There's
wild?
standards.
You're wild.
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just
Why
throwing
don't
it out there.
women fight back first
No,
of
I
all?
mean, if
Are you
if
kidding
if
me?
if equality is this major thing, because I've been hit by a lot of women and I never touched them,
we also have laws, so let's not
I
encourage
get it, but
men
why?
to man up and women just to fight back.
No,
Many
I
women
just don't
do.
yeah.
Many women do fight
Absolutely.
back. Some are so physically injured and impaired or mentally stunted and damaged that they have no fight left. But let's be clear, we should be raising our young men to
Yes.
keep them hands to themselves, and we should be raising our young women to do the same.
Yes.
Nobody should be putting their hands
Yes.
on anybody. Let's be very, very clear about
Yes.
that. Very clear. But you want to sit here and talk about men being men. Real men don't hit women.
Absolutely.
Period.
That's true.
So when we go back to those, those cultural
I got a
norms
funny story.
and the things that we love about men.
I got a funny story for you. So I had this girlfriend. I was 18 years old.
He just said funny story. I'm so scared right now about what you're going to say.
She's like all of 5'3",
Mm-hmm.
100 pounds. lunatic, was going nuts on me one night, beating on me. I threw her on my shoulder. I carried her back to my office. I put her on the couch. I held her down, and I'm telling my buddy, call her dad. Holding her down. Next thing that happens, boom, door gets kicked in. BSO grabs me, throws me up against the wall, pins me. Now,
what happened? Somebody saw you?
Now somebody saw me carrying her.
Yeah.
So now she's going nuts on the cop.
Let him go!
She's beating the cop.
Trust.
And I'm like, look,
you would have gone viral.
I'm like, look,
in
bro,
2022.
yes.
You would have gone viral.
This is 1986.
Yeah.
Or whatever, 87. I'm like, look, you just got to call her father. He's got me cuffed against the wall. I'm like, look, just call her father. So he gets the father on the phone. And they're like, you got to let him go. He's the only one that's going to calm her down.
You love crazy though, and that's a conversation for another podcast. Is that
but it's
learning
just,
to remove?
It's just,
but we need a therapist to come in every once in a while and talk about that.
I've instilled on my children. You never hit a woman.
That doesn't mean that they're not going to like crazy.
Now my daughter, she hits hard. She is vicious, but men should never hit women. But that goes to the whole stereotype of men still have to be men and women still have to be women. And it's just am I saying what Tate spews is correct? No, but I think there's
it's giving know your
I think
place,
there's the
little
opposite,
lady, and that is not.
I think there's the opposite. You mean like playing Cinderella backwards and
we've evolved.
About a woman learning her place?
We've evolved, and part of that evolution was necessary. And in 2022, it's even more so, just with the cost of living, right? Like, we can't all just be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. And I'm going to be honest, I'm so tired.
But if you got a good man, you should be.
Yeah, but guess what? There are not a whole lot of men out there right now, Len, that can honestly hold down the fort and provide a truly comfortable life for a family, or even just for a partner, right? That's just the economics of 2022. You've seen it in the comments on our own TikTok where people are like, I'm 30 plus years old, have a pretty good freaking job, and I still have 3 roommates, right? Like, that could be your man, that could be, whatever that looks like. So this whole notion that, just let a man be a man.
Yeah, but are they wearing Gucci?
I don't give a fuck what they're wearing. The point is, they could be wearing Gucci, they could be wearing Target, they could be wearing Sally's, which is the Salvation Army, Goodwill. At the end of the day, why should I suffer or make my person suffer when I have 2 very capable legs, 2 very capable hands, a body, a mind, and I can go out and get a job and help this household thrive, right? That's where we've gotten to. As women have gotten into the workforce, expectations have grown. What makes for a good life, that bar has been raised, right? What people want vacations. They want, nice cars. They want to be able to put their kids in private school if they want to be able to put their kids in private school. They want to have clothes. Like, these are all things, and that takes money. And unfortunately, it's it's unfair to put that pressure on one person when the expense has grown astronomically since 1955 or even 1975, right? Because I think there was still a lot of, stay-at-home moms or housewives even in the 70s, right? So
there was a lot in the 80s and 90s too.
So there you go.
There's
and there still
are.
Now. And there are still women who aspire to that. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But having a wife that works doesn't make you less of a man. That's not, to me, what makes a man a man. And that goes back to the character issue. And now in 2022, we have different expectations and different qualities that coincide with what we see as a good man, and that barbaric, Neanderthal. I still like a tough guy. Like, it was funny. I saw a meme the other day on Instagram that was like, ladies, could you stay with a dude if you watched him get his ass kicked? And I laughed and I was like, if he got jumped, maybe? If it was fair.
What was this?
If it was a one-on-one fight. And
about the same size dude.
And he got his ass whipped. I don't know. Things in the bedroom might change a little bit. But I mean, if he was like defending my honor and, got jumped by 3 dudes, baby, come here, baby.
Do you ever test dudes? Like, do you ever try and make them flinch? See if they jump. Because,
My
if you go like this and a dude flinches, you can just move on to the next one.
My roommates in college, well, one of my roommates was 6'5" and 290 pounds. So trying to make him flinch didn't usually go over too well. And he loved wrestling. But,
Everybody loves wrestling with girls.
I understand. That wasn't even what I was talking about.
Well, whatever. That's what it sounded like.
What I'm saying to you is I think that in 2022, the definition of what makes a man a good man has changed. And Homeboy was trying to take it back to like literally
Stone Age.
Yeah, like Wilma and Fred.
Yeah, whack her over the head with a bat and take her home.
And, still pedal in the car with your feet. And that is just unacceptable now. It's almost the same way I feel like it's unacceptable to allow
a part of that
kind
is
of
show.
language.
Part of that is
because he's a fraud. And that's my point. But there are people, Len, all you do is help me make your points. There are people out there that watch a 30-second clip of this guy and take it as gospel. Do you know what I mean? Not knowing that the cars are rented, the houses are all of this shit is his net worth is nowhere near. I'm a trillionaire. Bitch, get the fuck out of here. You're a trillionaire. My ass. You're lucky if you have a whatever. Shut up. Anyway, my point is, with social media and Elon Musk now at the helm of what was kind of the last free front to some degree, you know what I mean? It took a lot more to get canceled. It took a lot more to get taken off of Twitter than it did off of a Zuckerberg platform. For sure.
Okay.
And now just this inundation of hate. I'm sure Tate would have free reign on,
I think he's on there.
So long as he doesn't incite violence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's appears to be where Elon is drawing the line,
I didn't see any
N-word,
I didn't see any
anti-Semitic things, whatever. Although he took Kanye down for the swastika.
Yeah, see, I didn't see any of that, and he used I didn't see any of what Kanye did, but he used that policy.
Yeah.
To cancel Kanye.
Yeah. He took him down, and that's what he said. It was anything that incites violence, which, of course, yes. I think that's one of them. So it's just an interesting space, but really and truthfully, Lenny, you and I can agree to disagree. I don't think Elon Musk is a good boss, nor do I believe that the boss is always right. And, maybe I'm just very lucky to have always worked in a setting where, again, discourse is encouraged, right? In the sense of, and I also think it's healthier, don't you? If you have an open forum where people can air their grievances.
Like I said, to a point, and it's the there's boundaries. Mm-hmm. There's boundaries, and I don't think everyone understands that there's boundaries and what you can and cannot communicate with your boss. Mm-hmm.
But you know that the dude that he fired, and it was funny because somebody...
I mean, do you really want to blast your boss in front of 40 million people?
But even the dude said, maybe this is a conversation we should be having in Slack or on Teams. The dude said this.
Yeah.
And then Buddy came behind. Do you feel that was more disrespectful, or that was him trying to say,
I don't want to do this here. I don't think it. Yeah, I think he might have been trying to be a little respectful.
Do you know what I mean?
But again, Musk could have his own agenda.
That's all I'm saying.
But it's true. But he's not. I don't think he does a lot of things that are not calculated. Mm. Okay, I don't think he's out there just, willy-nilly spewing at the mouth.
I disagree.
I think he thinks things through.
I think he likes being in this space. I think he likes being in. I think he bought Twitter really for his ego. He's got a good amount of followers on there. I think he wants to have the conversations. I think he wants to engage with people on Twitter. He likes going viral. I think he enjoys that. And somebody just called his bluff. You know what I mean?
Sort of why I started a podcast.
And it all makes sense now.
It's that fucking simple. Now you gotta fucking listen to me. All right, we better wrap this up.
I was just about to say, they do, and they definitely feel a way about it, Len.
Yes.
And on that note, feel free to leave your comments below, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We love to engage, and again, trust me, we read them 9 times out of 10. If you get a response, especially from the ManTFup account, it's Lenny responding directly to you, right?
Yes.
Are you responding with the ManTFup account?
Yeah, and I think they're teaching me how to use my
Your own?
Mr. Man the Fuck Up.
Oh, okay, Mr. Man. Okay, I love
They're
it.
teaching me how to use that.
Okay, and me, I'm Kimmy B. And
She's
normally,
Kimmy B.
and normally I'll tell you, I'm the girl in the video. I'll say it. But anyway, we appreciate you tuning in. Remember, we are absolutely everywhere you can listen to a podcast and anywhere you can watch clips of a podcast. So like, subscribe, share, follow, and we will be back next week. You can also email me at kimmyb@ManTFupTV.com. Is that it?
Boom.
Is that
yes,
it? ManTFupTV.com?
Yeah, you got
Look
it right.
at that. I haven't said that in so long.
We're going to try not to be away so long. We know you guys are missing us.
Yeah. Len, and thank you guys for embracing my name for Len. I love it. That's right, Mr. Len, my man. We'll see you next time.
Peace.